What's up guys? As you all know, I have stated in a couple previous videos that I have been taking the steps to change my life through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. I want to talk to you guys about why I'm doing this, how I'm doing it, and the tips and tricks I'm using to get through it. And at the end of this video, I'll be showing you my take on the infamous envelope system. I want to start off by stating that none of these videos are in any way sponsored, and all this is going to be just my way of documenting my experience and sharing it all with you guys. First and foremost, I don't believe that we are ever educated enough in terms of finances and how to properly live as adults in today's world. We go to school from the time we can walk and talk to the time the law states that we are able to live out our life on our own accords, and never in that time period are we ever taught the things that we are actually needed for survival in our world today. I mean, think about it. In school, did you ever learn about investments or stocks? How about even more essential items like insurance and credit? I don't know about you, but I was never even taught how to properly file for my taxes. Don't you think that's crazy? I've never learned enough about how to handle money in the real world. And it's been occurring to me lately that neither does anyone else my age. Most kids my age have graduated college with so much debt that they're doomed to their parents' basements for the next 20 years. And the worst part about it is, too many of the kids I know in that situation are completely content. They have come to this mindset that something about this is just the norm these days, and being independent is overrated. This absolutely blows my mind. And here I am, nearly 23, in my third year of college, you know, because I waited 2 years to go to college, and I'm already tens of thousands of dollars in student loans hanging over my head, and all I can think is I want out. I was discussing all this with a close friend and telling her how I have every intention of paying out all my debt and how I would eventually be free of all of it and build savings to the point that I would pay for everything up front in cash. She laughed at me, obviously. She gave me the look as if she were talking to, you know, a little naive 7-year-old. And she said, debt is just something we all have to live with, and we go our whole lives paying it off, and that's just the way it works. And I grew sad to think that somehow we have been brainwashed to believe that we are spending double, triple, maybe quadruple the amounts of money on things than we should be paying for them, because we are essentially paying someone else to pay for it for us. Isn't that crazy? Like, when you really think about what like loans and credit really are, why do we do this to ourselves? Consistently purchasing things we can't afford and thinking it's okay, I'll just spend the rest of my life paying this off because that's what's normal. Wrong, 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 wrong. This is a terrible, terrible mindset to have. And I too am guilty of this. I'm an absolute fool for credit cards, consistently taking on credit cards to purchase a bunch of crap I really don't need with money I certainly do not have. And all I'm thinking is now is how much I hate the fact that I have to pay all this off now. And I have to pay more than what it's worth. Out of pure lack of education and preparation for my future, I have royally screwed myself over in terms of finances. I chose an expensive college, I've got way too many credit cards, I financed a car with too high of an interest rate, and I've been all around foolish. This all has to end now. I am in a rut, yes, and my finances are just taking a huge toll right now. But I'm also in my prime. I'm single, young, and I have this prosperous future ahead of me. And I'm taking control of this now, and I'm going to have an incredibly successful future because of it. I want to do one video like this a month, just to help me keep track on what I'm doing and how my life is changing because of this new financial track I'm on. And also to help other young single people like myself that don't want to start their adulthood in debt or in their parents' basement. Dave Ramsey teaches in his step-by-step system, so to keep your priorities in line. I'll go into more details in other videos about the different steps and what I think is important now for young single people, and when other things he talks about will become progressively more important in the future. The first step is to immediately get some money into savings. I recently ran into why this was so important. Basically, the goal here is to get out of debt. So if something happens like, oh, I don't know, you get a flat tire, but you don't have enough money in your checking account to repair it or purchase a new one, your first reaction is to grab that credit card, which simply leads to more debt. right? If your tire goes flat and you don't have the money in your checking account, but you've set aside an emergency savings fund, guess what? The tire is paid for in full and you are a slave to no one. Dave recommends getting $1,000 as soon as possible, like immediately, into a savings account. I can only imagine you're having the exact same reaction I did when I heard him say this. $1,000. Ouch. See, this amount is targeted at families that make an average household income of around 40 grand. In fact, this entire program seems to be targeted at that. Couples that are married and have children. He does speak at some point to younger audiences, but I want to translate more the parts that he doesn't really go into for something like us single kids can grasp, if that makes sense. I would say, as a working college student or working adult fresh out of college, aim for $500 in an emergency fund. Essentially, the more you can get into that savings account, the better off you are. But whatever you do, do it quickly. That fund is essential to making this whole thing work. Next, after that, he gets into budgets and having monthly spending sheets, which is probably one of the most important parts of all of this. I'll have another video on that, which will go into more on how I'm doing the budgeting once I get more a hang of it. I'm still tweaking some things, and he even says that it takes about 3 months to get where you need to be in terms of budgeting, so I'll get more into that later. One important point Dave makes, however, is that we simply do not use enough cash these days. It's way easy for us to spend money on things that we don't need when we're simply swiping a piece of plastic rather than using actual money that we can see and feel. One of his ways to help in budgeting and using money over cards is to have his infamous envelope system, in which you separate your cash into their designated envelopes. So one for gas, one for food and groceries. If that envelope goes empty, you can no longer spend money on that category until the next period. So here was my issue. I went to the bank and took out all the cash I needed. I asked for extra cash envelopes so I could simply use those for the system. This was an absolute nightmare. I had the envelopes labeled, but somehow money was still getting mixed up. The envelopes were sticking themselves shut, so I was constantly fidgeting. I felt utter anxiety fiddling with everything simply to get some cash, knowing the cashier was staring at me and the person in line behind me was breathing down my neck and ready to pounce at any moment. I became discouraged. I thought, there's no way this is going to work. This is the biggest hassle. Then I decided to slap myself out of that and literally took it upon myself to create a new envelope system that fits right in my wallet and is super organized and perfectly convenient. This is just a little prototype I made. It looks like this little filing folder, but I want to show you guys how I created this and how to make it work for you. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you guys how I went about doing this. It's actually really simple. You want to use as many envelopes as you need. I'm using 5. I have 3 regular ones that I need every month, which is gas, food, and entertainment. But then there's other months where I need something extra, like I need to go buy stuff for my cat or something like that. So I'm gonna have 2 extra miscellaneous envelopes as well. The first thing you want to do is you want to cut this top part off. So now that's done and I have my 5 envelopes. So if we just were to stick them together like this, it would be kind of hard to get into the ones that are towards the back or in the middle. So we kind of want to cut them in a layered fashion so that they're easier to get into, more like a filing folder similar to this one. Found that cutting an inch off the first one is about the perfect amount. For the second one, we're going to cut 3/4 of an inch off. And then we're also going to mark a full inch down, just because we want to know that we're not going to glue that area. So this one we're going to cut 1/2 inch off. Okay, so for the next one, we're going to just cut off 1/4 inch. So then for the last envelope, we're not going to cut any of it off. Instead, we're just going to mark it at 1/4 inch and draw that line just so we know where to glue. Okay, so now starting with the tallest one. So as you can see, it's going to be like glued like this. So we're going to start with the tallest one. And I'm using rubber cement. A glue stick would work just as fine. Elmer's glue, anything you have will work great. So I'm just going to glue the surface of this, the whole front surface. You want to make sure you don't get any in the blue part, because otherwise it'll all stick together and that won't be good. And you don't want to get it above the line either. Okay, so now we're just going to line up the corners of the next tallest one. And we're just going to make sure this is as lined up as possible. And then just stick it all together. So then you're just going to repeat that with the remaining envelopes. So now everything is glued together, and you could just finish here and be like, okay, I'm done. But I don't want to just walk around with this plain, boring envelope. So I have some like scrapbook paper, extra scrapbook paper hanging around. So I'm going to decorate this a little. Once you have that all done, you can just go ahead and fill your pockets with their allotted amount of money. And then that just goes right into your wallet. That's basically it, guys. This is my envelope system, and it's so much more convenient than trying to have actual like separate envelopes that you have to open and fiddle with, and this makes things a little bit easier. And doesn't make me want to give up as much. I'm gonna do more of these videos, at least one a month, and just telling you guys how I am getting through the whole thing, and just to help me document it, I guess. But I really hope you guys stick around and come along for the ride, and this is gonna be really exciting, and I really want to help you guys out too. So give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. If you want more videos about money things, and actually any other kind of video that I do, because I do tons of videos, please subscribe and join my big happy family. I would love to have you, and I will see you guys soon with a new video. Bye-bye!
I'm curling my lashes with just a simple lash curler. A lot of people skip this step, but honestly it makes the biggest difference. Test it yourself. Trust me, you want to curl those lashes. Then I'm using Rimmel Wonder Lash Mascara with Argan Oil in black. I'm currently obsessed with this mascara.